Hey guys, this is week 3 and I'm Advait Namboodiri. I'm going to be teaching you about the different types of loops. So here we go. What are loops firstly? A loop usually is defined as something that happens over and over again. But similarly in programming languages, loops are used to execute a set of instructions, so a part of a code, repeatedly when a group of conditions are fulfilled or are true. There are 3 types of loops. The first loop is a for loop, which is a control flow statement that iterates or loops a part of the program multiple times. Secondly, there's the while loop, which executes a part of a program repeatedly on the basis of a given Boolean condition. And also, the number of iterations is not fixed. For the do-while loop, it's a control flow statement that executes a part of the program at least once. And then after that, it does it on the basis of the given Boolean condition. So let's look at the syntax for a for loop. So firstly, in the for loop, you write for, and then there are 2 parentheses brackets. You write initialize the variable, for example, integer I is equal to 1 or 2 or whatever you feel like. Then you write the condition, which is I is equal to 5, or I is smaller than equal to 5, or I is greater than equal to 5. Whatever condition you feel like, you put it onto the for loop. And then finally you increment or decrement it. So you can do I is equal to I plus 2, I plus plus, I plus 5, all of them. After that, 2 curly brackets are kept, and inside you write the code to be executed, whether it be a print statement or an if statement inside the for. It can be anything. So that's how you go for a for loop. So in this example over here, we're showing you how to print the first 5 numbers. So as you can see over here, int I is equal to 1. So we've initialized it. I is smaller than equal to 5. So it keeps on repeating until it's smaller than equal to 5. And then I plus plus, so it increments. So in this code, it'll go int I is equal to 1. It'll check if it's smaller than 5. It is. Then prints I. So that's 1. It continues to go that until it reaches 6, which it doesn't fulfill the code because 6 is greater than 5. And then it stops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has been printed and 6 can't print. So that's the end of the code. Now we go to the syntax of the while loop. In the while loop, you write while, and then again 2 parentheses brackets, and you put the condition inside. So it could be, again, I is smaller than equal to 5, I is greater than equal to 5, I is equal to 5, I is equal to 6, anything. And then again, you put 2 curly brackets, and inside you write the code to be executed. So here's an example. So at first we initialized it, and we wrote that it's equal to 1, while I is smaller than equal to 5, and then we print it and we increment it. So similarly, like the for loop, this prints the first 5 numbers, since it's fulfilling the code and then keeps on printing until it hits 6 because it can't print. Finally, the do while loop. So in the do while loop, you write do, and then you put 2 curly brackets, and even before you write the condition, you write the code to be executed. And then only after the curly brackets will you do while, then 2 parentheses brackets, and the condition you feel like. And also, there's an important rule for all do-while loops. There must be a semicolon after the while condition, only in a do-while loop. If there's no semicolon, the syntax wouldn't work and it would result in a runtime error. So here's the example. Int I is equal to 1. We're initializing the I variable, and we're printing I at first and incrementing it. And then only will we write the condition. So it prints it first, and then only does it check with the condition. So always do while loops at least fulfill the code once. Here are the differences between the for loop, while loop, and do while loop. So in a for loop, the number of iterations is fixed. So whenever the number of iterations in a specific code is always fixed, then it's recommended to use the for loop. For the while loop, if the number of iterations is not fixed, then it is recommended to use the while loop. And for a do while loop, if the number of iterations is not fixed and you have to execute the loop at least once, then you have to use the do while loop. And then the second is the condition is checked first and then only is the statement executed. Similarly, for the while loop, the condition is checked first and then only statement is executed. But for the do while loop, the statement is executed at least once and then only is the condition checked. So the do while loop is different from the while loop and for loop in that aspect. Here are some real life examples of loops where you might need to use the for, while, or do while loop. So like the software of the ATM machine is in a loop to process transaction after transaction until you acknowledge that you have no more to do. Then in a mobile device, it allows users to unlock the mobile with 5 password attempts. And after that, it completely resets the mobile device. So you have to use a for loop for that because there's a specific number of iterations, which is 5, and then it resets. And then the last one is you put your favorite song on a repeat mode. So it continues to repeat and repeat and repeat until you stop it. So here's a little revision test. So the first question, when the number of iterations is fixed, what loop would you use? Which loop requires a semicolon after the condition? Define a while loop and write a program which prints the first 5 odd numbers using a for loop. So I'll give you about 10 seconds and you can pause the video for about 5 minutes and you can do this test and I'll wait. Okay, so I guess you're done by now. So here we go. These are the answers. So our first question was, when the number of iterations is fixed, what loop would you use? For a while loop and a do while loop, the number of iterations is never fixed. You can do it when it's not fixed as well. So when the number of iterations is fixed, you use the for loop. Next up, which loop requires a semicolon after the condition? So in a while loop and a for loop, you don't put a semicolon after the condition. But in a do while loop, as we have seen before, you put a semicolon after the condition. So the answer is do while loop. The next question, define a while loop. So a while loop is a control flow statement that executes a part of the program repeatedly based on the Boolean condition, only when the number of iterations is not fixed. When it is fixed, it's the for loop. And lastly, the code. Write a program which prints the first 5 odd numbers using a for loop. So here's the code. First, there's the for and the 2 parentheses brackets. So you can do this 2 ways. I've done it this way, but you can do it another way as well. I'll show you that later. Int I is equal to 1. I is smaller than equal to 9. I plus equal to 2. So it prints 1 and then it adds 2 and then it prints 3. Then it adds 2 again, prints 5. Then adds 2 again, prints 7. And then adds 2 again and prints 9. And finally, when it adds 2 again, it doesn't print 11 because 11 is greater than 9. So it won't be possible. So it prints 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, which are the first 5 odd numbers. You can do it another way as well by printing it 5 times and checking if the remainder is equal to 1 while dividing it with 2. Because odd numbers, when divided by 2, always result in a remainder of 1. So you can use the modulus operator and then increment it. So you can do it that way as well, but you can do it this way as well. So yeah, that's the end of the different types of loops. I hope you've understood the different types of loops well. And if you have any doubts, feel free to send a mail to the email below given in the description. Thank you all.